Thank you so much for joining this channel. So, those who already visited my channel may have gone through this following list of items that we already delivered. Day 1 to day 18, that is actually, that you can build, how to build an agent, how to build a multi-agent platform, how to use the various pattern like router, supervisor pattern, how to use observability, tools, function. So, all the concepts been given. So, I would request that you visit this day 1 to day 18 for better understanding of this, the agentic AI using semantic kernel with Olama and Azure OpenAI. And then you come to this session where we're actually building a practical agent. So concept you already discussed, that concept we will slowly use in building up the agent. So say for example, right now we have taken the first agent in my channel, that is KYC agent. I think those who are already in the, that they have bank account or loan account or anything, so they know what is KYC. The full form of KYC is know your customer. So whenever you go to the bank will ask to submit some documents, and based on that, bank will check whether you are eligible for being a customer or not. There are certain process, they will check the risk assessment, many things they will do. And ultimately will get an OTP and then a message that you are now a bank account holder. Similarly for loan also, it may be for credit card also, it may be for securities also, for anything. So today we'll build up the KYC agent in a part by part basis. So before that, just make sure you visit this day 1 to day 18 and then you come to this KYC agent. Otherwise, you face difficulty. And how to access this day 1 to day 18, I have given a screenshot. This is my playlist. This playlist contains day 1 to day 18 that you can visit from my channel to get it in a single place. So now let's focus into the banking KYC agent. So when I say KYC, so you know that you go to the bank, you talk to the banker asks you some basic details that they will note down. Then you will take a printout of all the documents like PAN card, Aadhaar card, or maybe some other documents like address proof, right? Bank statement, so not bank statement, maybe some other details, so that you can prove that you are a legitimate customer. And also they may ask you some other details which will check whether you do have any risk factor or not. So everything is manual. Maybe it is already computerized, so something already, the software is already there, but software work on a specific conditions, that is hard-coded conditions, right? So that will not, there is no intelligence. It is a straightforward application. You just fill up your details, upload your documents, it will be submitted manually. The supervisor or the bank manager has to approve the process, then again it will have to go to the next level. So it is not very fully automatic, but yes, since we are already in the computer world and we already developed multiple application, mobile app, web applications, right? So these things are already digitalized. But now in the era of AI, this will be automated using Agentic AI. So that's the reason we are now here in building up the KYC agent. So bank must verify customer identity, right, before giving an account opening. The very basic details, right? So this is the main funda before making you a customer for the bank. So typical manual process, customer upload document, PAN card, other risk scoring, approval, then all these approvals. So this is the whole workflow for the manual. Here website and the mobile is already involved, but yes, manual intervention also there, because someone will come to your home and check whether you exist or not. Maybe the Agentic AI also that will be there, but yes, a little bit of that the software work on a specific hard-coded logic that is going on. So now we will take a help of Agentic AI to make it more fine-tuned and less that less burden on the human resources, and as well as more accurate. So the same flow will be followed, but using Agentic AI. So problem, slow processing, human errors, fraud risk, delay, expensive operation. So now we will build a KYC agent that can read documents automatically. So right now right now what you do, you fill up your details, you upload a document, then again you do something. So but now only with a single command everything will be done. So that is the whole purpose of making an agent. So agent will work on behalf of human entirely. So read documents, extract identity information, check compliance rules, query internal knowledge base, calculate risk, decide and approve. So if you see the typical manual process and the agent almost same, the difference is only the staff checks and other things are there, right? But here everything will be called within the agent. Agent will take care of doing all those things. So now what is architecture? So in order to build, so to those who already visited day 1 to day 18, so they know okay, what are the things I'm using right now. All those concepts has been clubbed together, like semantic kernel we are using. We will use Azure OpenAI. We will already discuss in the day 12 what is tool, how to use tool in intelligent way. So all the concepts we have tried to put together to make a realistic agent. So now that agent actually built using a console application in the day 1 to day 18, even though I have used Olama and Azure OpenAI both. But while making this banking Agentic AI, we have changed a little bit of format. Now it is API endpoint we will provide. The API endpoint will like a KYC endpoint where the information will be given, details, and then the endpoint will return whether it is approved or rejected. That will be done. So API, I think those who are from the .NET background, any background, have written the background logic, they know what is API endpoint. So now the important part is after API being called, then the agent comes into the picture. So if you go into the normal architectural, application, what you see, API layer or controller layer, then service layer, then repository layer, something like that, right? The entire flow. The same thing will happen, but agent will comes into the picture because we are creating different agents for different purpose. So they are worker agents. Tools are required, as I mentioned in the day 12 with the original series. The tools are nothing but helper functions. Suppose your LLM is trained on 2025 data, and now you're asking something. So to LLM, if you directly send a prompt to the LLM with the data, then LLM may hallucinate, right? Whatever you're given. But on the current context of 2026, if the LLM has an option to use the tools like web search or something else, right? Then it can bring the data realistically, and taking this data with your system prompt along with your original data. Based on that, LLM can give a more accurate answer without hallucination. So that is that we also discussed in the day 12, 12C, 12B. Services, so the agent will call the services. Services is nothing but that which will actually connect the external. Like when I say that LLM needs some data from outside, so what does it mean? It will make a web search call or some other third party, right, to get some more realistic data on the current context. So you have to use services. Planner is the orchestration, or you can say supervisor kind of thing that we already discussed. Supervisor agent which will manage everything. Memory, if you don't use memory every time the LLM being called, the cost will be higher, and LLM may give a different output. But if you are using the same prompt, same data, and in that case the memory will use, right, based on the, and you have a context also in the next call to the LLM. So memory have an advantage that we already discussed in the, I think, day 4 or day 5. 5 we have discussed. Observability we have discussed in the day 15 or 14, which is nothing but without logging and exception handling. Forget about it, nothing will work, right? If something goes wrong, how you will troubleshoot that? So these things all together will help you to make the banking KYC, and the banking KYC structure depends on this customer upload documents, document processor, and this RAG. We will discuss RAG also, fraud detection, risk, decision, identity tracker, and this all these things will be happen. And with tool information, the agent will talk to the Ulama or the Azure OpenAI, and the data will come up, and then it will give a final approval or rejection. So what is the tech stack? I think tech stack is very same. .NET 8, Web API with Swagger. We are using Swagger because we are using API endpoint. It is no longer a console application. Semantic Kernel as the Agentic library, Ulama local LLM, and Azure OpenAI as LLM. So we will use Azure OpenAI right now because we have started from the day 15, 15.5. Database, you can use Vector DB also, Chroma, Quartet, but right now in some of the project we will use the dictionary for the time being. But when you make a bigger agent, then we will use the actual database model PDF parser. So whatever we discussed in the previous slide, the same thing. KYC agent, we will have the same thing: API agent, tool, services, memory, observability, runtime. So in this video, we will cover this APIs, agent, tool, services, and the memory, observability, and some other things will be covered in the part 2 video. So that will be back to back. Because if I put everything in one video, so no longer it will be like, that it will be very lengthy. General structure, API, this is a controller. I think controller will be the entry point. Controller will talk to this, that agent. And so in between, we will put the supervisor pattern and everything when we start. But this is the basic one. The controller will talk to the agent will call these tools. Based on that, it will talk to the Ulama and it will come back with the data. That is the whole thing. So this is the series. So how actually, see, I haven't built everything in one shot because that maybe I can build up, but this will not help you to understand how the solution being built. So I have done step by step. You can also do the practice at your home and you can make it in the next level. So this is the foundation only with all the concept, and that you will use to build up your own solution at next level, right? So now we will start with part 1. I have divided into the parts. So part 1 to part 5 I have made in this video. Part 6 to part 8, little bit different architecture. It is not API endpoint, clean architecture kind of thing, but in part 6 to part 8 it will be like a API, but it will be event driven architecture. So it will be different. So we'll go into the next video, right? So let's start with the part 1. So in part 1, what we are doing, goal is to start understand agent and tools, right? Because without tools you cannot make any KYC agent. You cannot depend only on the LLM, assuming that will give you all the data. No, not possible. Tools are required, right? In the KYC, what happened, right? You need to check the person background, or maybe that any risk factor is there, any fault is faulty or not. Just like in the license also, they check anything something wrong happened earlier also with the car or not. So those will come on the tools. So agent is nothing but decision maker. Tools, sorry, because agent means when I say LLM will make these decisions. Agent will execute actually. Tools will the capabilities of the function of the helper. API is the entry point. So our flow will be API will talk to the agent, multiple agents. Agents will take a help of the tools, and then final LLM will take a decision, and the decision will come back as approve or disapprove. So we are in a part 1, and we will see how part 1 is working in the code. So you can see that part 1 code we have made. What we have taken, the same thing that we discussed in the part 1, KYC controller, agent, and everything. So same thing I will show. So now this is the KYC controller. So KYC controller will have two websites, right? The part 1 we are doing agent with tool. So identity means what? Suppose you are going to the bank, right? The bank will first check who are you, right? Then it will check what are the risks associated with you. Are you actually eligible for being a customer of the bank? So these two we have taken. You can add more also. This is a sample. So this tool will be used from the KYC controller. So then we will call the verify function. Verify will extract the customer data, and then I will calculate the risk also. So we have taken a sample. If the risk is greater than 50, it will be like manual review, means agent AI cannot take the decision. Someone has to visit or someone has to talk with the person, right? But if it is less than 50, automatically approve. So this is the whole logic. So now what is this? The identity agent. We'll go to the identity agent. Identity agent is a very basic one. You can do multiple things, but identity agent actually taking help of identity tool. Identity tool, say for example, I have taken Devanshu. So this data will come from some API call or maybe some third-party register, right? Assume that the data is already available with you. You are from India, you have a PAN. So first data will come up. Once the data will come up, then it will do a calculation. So what calculation is there? Risk tool, we are checking the country is India or not. If the country is India, 10. If it is the country, 60. So based on this information, this API will give you the score. So this is a basic KYC agent as a part 1 we have taken. We will upgrade it in the remaining part 2, 3, 4, 5 that we planned into this video. So you got my point, right? So this is the controller. Controller will talk to the agent. Agent will talk to internal tools, and then it will detect decision. Now you will say, okay, there is no LLM, right? We have given you the concept of agent now, but connecting to the Ulama or Azure OpenAI, that will come into this in the same series in the part 3 or part 4, where LLM will take the decision. Right now we are taking decision based on our logic. So this is like a normal application, but this is a foundation for the using of LLM in the next parts. So let me run it. So now this is running in the port number 5000. So you can see API KYC. First we'll put a debug point over here so that you understand what is happening. We'll put just document, nothing else. So suppose something you are sending right now, it is a document upload. Think about it as a document upload, right? That we discussed into this PPT. It will go to this. It will take this data. The identification has been done. Then it will go and check the score. Now the score is 10. So this is approved. So here we have tried to show you how the basic agent works, even though there is no LLM. So now we'll go to the part 2 to make it more advanced. Let's move from basic agent to the advanced agent. We'll stop it. So we have done the part 1, basic KYC agent. We have taken identity extraction and risk scoring. So we are trying to use whatever concept we have learned in the day 1 to day 18. Now coming to the part 2, the same solution will be upgraded now. How? See, now this request will go and the response will come like this. So the diagram you can see, we already discussed identity extraction and risk scoring in the part 1. That is this already been done. So in the part 2, what we are doing right now, so we'll make it enterprise. So in the day 1, we have learned agents and tools. We have used identity agent and the risk agent, and identity tool and the risk tool that we already discussed. So day 2 means here part 2. Don't confuse with that. When I prepared this PPT, I thought I will make it a day wise. Then I decided to make it like a part 1 so that you get it in the 2 videos. Otherwise, I have to make 8 to 10 videos. So that will be more little bit lengthier only for one agentic AI solution. So don't confuse with the day 1. It is part 2. So part 1 we already done agents plus tools. In the part 2 we are doing agents plus enterprise services. What we are doing? Documents, the same thing we'll upload. OCR, you know that sometimes OCR we have to where the document has been read. Then we will call the identity agent. Then we will call the fraud agent and risk agent. So additionally we are calling some additional agent, right? Like fraud agent. OCR services we are using. So it is like enterprise, right? Earlier in the day 1 what we have done, we have done only identity and risk. Now we are checking the fraud case and other things. So let's see how the day 2 works. So client, API controller, OCR service, identity agent, fraud. So similarly, you can see the PAN number, like I will give something like that. And execution flow will OCR, identity, fraud, risk detection. So let's see how the day 2 works. So we'll move to the day 2. So we are in day 2 now. You can see that earlier in the day 1 we have used identity agent, we have used risk agent. Now we have added a fraud agent also, and the same thing. But in services, we have used fraud services because the PAN number may fake, right? So that will be checked. OCR means right now we are not using Azure OCR. You know, services are for calling the external things. So here we are just sending the document back, but in the upcoming days or future we'll use the Azure OCR. So let's go to the KYC controller. So same thing, right? Identity discussed there. Additionally, fraud and OCR we have added. So what we are doing now, OCR will extract the text from the document. What does it mean OCR, right? If you give a, that invoice can be read by the Azure OCR. Just like, if you give any exam in a paper that can be scanned, right? So similarly OCR, the text will be extracted. Then identity will be extracted. ID already discussed. Then the customer is fraud or not, that will be checked. And then we'll do the calculate. So this and identity already done. Additionally, we are doing fraud check. And so because document is uploaded, same the workflow is the document is uploaded and then uploading the document, the identity has been checked, then his PAN card and other card, whatever, they will be checked for the fraud, it is wrong or right, then the risk calculation will be done, and based on that we'll decide to approve or disapprove. So same thing, only the additional thing is this fraud and the OCR. So let's run it. So now the document has been uploaded, right? So what will happen? The document will be scanned and everything, the document details will be come. Right now it is simple as returning back, but we will use in future the Azure OCR. Once the document has came, then we will check the identity. So identity we are taking Ethan right now. Once identity has been checked, we will check the PAN number. So what is the PAN number we are sending? Correct PAN number, is a fake PAN number. So these are the fraud case. If it is a fraud, then it will send fraud detected. Now it will go to calculation. For India, it is 10. Now approve. So you understood, right? Forget about LLM. You have to understand what are the sequence you have to follow from the business standpoint to make a KYC compliant for any particular user, or you can say the customer. If you understand the flow, then only when you add the LLM and other things, then you will understand that exactly how it is working. So in part 2, part 1 we have done identity check and the risk check using the tools with identity agent and risk agent. Now in the part 2 we have additionally used OCR services, that is external. That's the reason we have to make it a service, because it's external. We have to call it OCR in the later point of time. And then the fraud check also, right? Fraud also a service, because you have to call the third party API because PAN details is with the government of India, right? So that we have to call. So these are coming from the services. All these things are done, then only the calculation will be done. So hope this is clear. What is part 2? So now we'll move to the part 3. So we discuss OCR, identity, fraud check, risk calculation. So part 3 now. See, now our agent is ready, right? Mostly basic information, fraud check, the identity check, reading these documents, that also been done, and final scoring also done. Now there is no LLM so far. Only tools being used. We need a LLM also, and we need someone to orchestrate, right? So in day 2 we have done OCR, identity, fraud check. In day 3 AI will decide now the flow, not the conditions. So we need a planner. So client will call API will send to the planner, and then agent and tool. So it's a dynamic. So now we are selecting one by one tool, right? Now the selection of the tool will be done by the AI itself. The LLM will decide what tool need to be executed. AI will decide the workflow. So in the day one API agent tools we have used. Day two means here don't confuse the day one, day two is the part one, part two, part three. Part two is API services and agents, enterprise services we have introduced just because we have to call the fraud and the OCR. These are external. Now the AI will comes into the picture, which will take the decision of who agent to call, and then only the tools will be called inside the agent. So LLM, you know, if it is LLM alone, it is a text generator, but LLM and tools will be real AI agent. So you can say the all the foundation has been done. Now part three actually moving towards the real agentic AI. So for that we need to do these connections to the Ulama that we have done in the day 1, day 15.5 to day 18. This connectivity with the Azure OpenAI. And this is the flow. We have a KYC agent, LLM reasoning, function calling, identity tool, and risk tool, and final decision. So just keep in mind one thing, that in the semantic kernel earlier we have a function calling stepwise planner. You know, the planner actually giving this function internally, which is using the LLM. But in the new semantic, the LLM will call the function call directly. So just always remember this API will talk to agentic AI, and that will call the function calling, and then the tools and services. So let's see how part 3 actually work using the AI and planning. So let's understand the part 3 code. Same thing, fraud agent. You already know that. Identity agent, KYC agent, risk agent. So KYC controller will call the KYC agent, right? The KYC agent will be called. What KYC agent will do? KYC agent will ask the LLM that you are a KYC verification AI agent. Steps must be followed. That we need to do identity, we need to do risk calculation, final the decision we have to make on this. So this is the tooling information. How you are injecting the tooling? You can see identity and risk being injected into the kernel. So we'll see how it is working, and it will give you the return. So now finally the LLM comes into the picture. So this tool we are calling normally. Now this tool will be called through the semantic kernel, but using the prompt also we are sending the document details along with the tools details. Now the decision will be taken by the LLM or OpenAI. So for that, what we have to do, we have to go to the program.cs and we have to uncheck that. So this code was not there in the part 1 and part 2. So same thing we have taken, we created, you can see. So we have taken show keys. I hope it should work. So what we'll do, we'll put it debug point. Let's see. Again, the document will be uploaded. 1 minute, the API key is missing. So now you came to this document. So we'll see how the tool is being called. So what we will do, let's stop it again. Let's start. So here we are using this tool. We are auto invoking kernel function with the tools, and then we are passing the settings as an argument. So whatever tools is providing the information, that will go over here. See now it came to the tool automatically. We didn't call this tool by programmatically. It is programmatic means, you know, by getting object and everything. It automatically came over here. See, the kernel talked to the ulama and came out with the result. This result is directly coming from Azure OpenAI. This one that we have used. Decision approved, risk low. So now you can see that the details has came because we send a prompt asking, you just send us the risk and the decision. So here we have used the tool information using this KYC agent just to give you a flavor of how to use the Azure OpenAI as a decision maker. That we haven't done in the part 1 and part 2, but the concept of part 1 and part 2 being used here in the part 3 where LLM being introduced. Now part 3, I hope this is clear what we have done. Part 3 onwards, we have used this Azure OpenAI or Azure Cloud Foundry. Now part 4. So part 4 actually, see, in the part 3 we have used tools, right? And then the one single KYC agent actually using the prompt to ask it is perfectly fine or not based on the tool information. Now in the part 4 we will use the agents. The agents, which agents to be picked up, that will be decided by now the LLM now. In the part 3 we have done how which the decision for making the decision, right? But in part 4 we will use the LLM to take a decision which agent to be called sequentially. Earlier what we have done in the part 2, we have written the first code of identity, then we check fraud, then we check risk. Now this type of code will not be there. The decision we will take it from the LLM itself and then we will write the code. So you can see in the day 3 it is LLM plus tools, but in day 4 we are using a supervisor agent who will control this agent call or worker agent call based on the decision comes from the Azure OpenAI. So let's see. So in the Azure, in the day 4, you can see what we have done. Same code we have taken, but additionally we have used supervisor agent. So supervisor agent will have identity fraud risk, and also we have used the router. Because router actually will take the decision, and supervisor will control based on the decision given by the, suppose router says that you have to execute first identity, then you have to execute risk, then the fraud, right? The decision has came through the LLM. Now supervisor will ensure these three are called in the same order. So you can see first AI will decide the flow. What will be in the router? So router will give you that code, or you can say prompt with the data. We are asking decide which, based on the, suppose you have uploaded the document, and your Agentic KYC agent will connect to the Olama or Azure OpenAI within this prompt and asking, okay, what is the order we will follow? We will use this, but which step are required? It may happen that only one is required. So that region will come. Once the region has came, then we'll check the customer information on the customer. Region came, customer details came from the identity agent identity tool. The what we have done. Now next step, we will check the region contain what? Fraud, risk. So whatever region has been taken. So suppose out of 3 only 2 are taken, right? Fraud and risk. Then this will be executed. Fraud for service will be called, risk calculation will be done based on that. So somehow we're trying to give you an idea that how the OpenAI will take the decision, and the decision will be that decision will be followed by the supervisor agent, and supervisor agent will actually plan to execute the worker agents. You can put a different logic, but this is only for you to give you an understanding that how AI comes into the picture. So now we'll run it, but before that, the same thing we have to do. So now in the part 3, this controller is calling the KYC agent. KYC agent actually sending that prompt to the LLM to take a decision, right? How to execute using the tool information. Now in the part 4, we have make it more advanced, where agents will be picked up based on the Olama's decision, and supervisor will execute that. So part 1 and part 2, only the normal flow to understand the basics of the KYC agent with tool information. And from part 3, we have introduced actually the Olama. The router agent was not in the registration. So let's okay, the issue was the router agent was not added as a in the registration or dependency injection, so it is now fixed. I hope it should work. So let's put this. Let's run it. We will upload the document. First, based on that, we will send this document to, so your KYC routing agent. We will ask, okay, which agent we should call with the document details. See, the output has came. We have to go with the fraud check and risk assessment. Identity is not a part of that. Okay. However, we are doing identity separately, but OpenAI didn't recommend that because there is no data actually. However, we are taking the identity details from the Azure OCR. There is no OCR right now. It is hard-coded data. Now we've got the decision. Then we have to go with this, risk. So what we get? Fraud check. So fraud. I think there is a spelling mistake. Let me correct it. FR and risk. Okay, let me stop it. Fraud check, risk assessment, and identity. All three came. Sorry. Now we'll do the first one. Then we'll check this fraud. Then we'll check the risk. Finally approved. So I hope this is clear that how this. Let me debug. Stop. Debug. Disable. Came actually approved. Let's see. Processing agent, right? KYC. Well, let's see. What are the issues? There's async commit, some issue has came. So let's run it again. So we already shown this part. We come to the approve. No approve. So you got the understanding what is happening in the part 4. So part 4, we have done using the supervisor. We have given it a responsibility to the Ulama to take a decision based on the routing, who agent to pick up, and then agent will talk to the internally the tools. So in the part 5, it is more intelligent. Now we will call the external entities. As of now, we are calling tools and everything, right? But we will use the web search, adverse media detection. Is there any negative news or not? Is there any external signal is not? So in the day 4, we have done supervisor agent with this. But in day 5, we will use web search for adverse media, and also we will do the structural decision. So what will be the flow? Flow will be user input, and router will work the same way. Supervisor will decide the execution of this, and additionally, we are introducing one more agent, web intelligence agent. Web intelligence agent will use the LLM also, and finally, the same thing. Only we are using external, that external thing like web search and everything we'll use, and the architecture will be like identity agent, forward agent, and disk agent. Or no, only web agent is the new one. A router will take the decision. So also we are using here the memory. So memory we have multiple options, but we are dictionary now. But you can use Azure AI search, quadrant, vector DB. So day 5 with memory actually. First request will be search and store, and next request will be memory reuse. So LLM use historical data and the context. So that is the whole purpose of using the part 5. Let's see the demo because that is required to get the score, or you can say that adverse negative news or everything is associated with the particular person or not. So that we will check. So let's see the demo. The demo issue was that I already fixed. So let's see. Just go one by one. The steps. Same API endpoint. Upload document. First, it will call supervisor agent that we discuss in the part 4 also. So I will call the router. Router will ask LLM which agent to pick up based on the upload document. So we are sending, you're asking that you just think as a KYC agent, and steps we need it written in the steps format, what is required. And rules are like always include identity and include web for external verification. We have added the rules also, and then we pass the document. Something like that. We got the result. Identity fraud, risk, web, that we mentioned steps. Once you get the decision, we'll put into this steps that should be followed. Now steps has all the information need to be covered. First, it will check the identity. Same thing what we have done. Fraud also we have done in the previous parts. It will check the PAN number that is verified. Okay. The new thing is that web intelligence search that we risk also we decided, but we will see the web, right? Let's see the code. So for web, since it's external, we have to go to the web agent. Web agent will call internally the web service, as we discussed in the PPT. So now let's go to the web agent. What we are passing the name, and let's see it is in the memory or not. So now it will use dictionary, but in the real time it will use the Azure AI search or some vector DB. So that we will use later, but that we discuss in the PPT. But we are using dictionary just to give you a flavor how you can use that. So now the agent search agent will be called. I just taken a Google, okay, and we are sending the name randomly, John, and we'll see that the data is there any fraud or other things associated with the person or not. So this URL comes with these details, and we'll make a HTTP call. It comes up with this one HTML data. So you can say advice reporting. So now it is showing yes, it contains any fraud and crime. We'll save it to the memory. Then we'll make a call. Final the web search. So LLM is not like that. You will call everywhere. Whenever you need to make a decision, then only we will call. Just say, for example, in the part 3 we discussed that we'll ask LLM for using the tools. But in the part 4 we ask LLM to decide which agent to be called. But in the part 5 we are using to decide which agent to be called, as well as there are some agents or worker agents, not all, fraud or risk or identity. Suppose web search. Web search actually calling the third-party API. So whatever it has been came, there we need to pass it right to LLM to take a decision. So decision making is not that everyone will take a decision. Wherever required we will use that. So that is also the human intelligence how they are coding. So you're asking, is there any adverse media? So you know that already we call the Google and to check the person has any crime or fraud. It came, something else came. So now we are sending the same data. The data you can see, negative news found, and we are asking Ulama, OpenAI, what needs to be done? This is the the core part of the part 5. See what is giving. See, it is saying the risk is high, adverse media is true. Reason negative news indicate the potential significant issue that could impact the financial stability. So it is rejected. I think the risk score you already know that, not required. Let's see. So it is said rejected, adverse media found. So hope you understood like what exactly we are trying to build up from the part 1 to part 5. So if I summarize, like part 1 we have done the basic agent with tools and sorry, where it is tools and agent, basic tools. Till we haven't used any LLM over here, just understanding like how the tools can be used. In part 2 we have introduced the service layer for OCR, and this for the fraud agent. Fraud means when I say fraud, you have to make a third party call, or OCR, you have to Azure OCR. Part 3 we have introduced the AI workflow, so that AI should take the decision where the tool decision being taken by this AI that we discuss. Part 4 we have introduced the supervisor agent. The supervisor agent already discussed the day 9 in the previous playlist. So this agent will decide which agent to be called. So the supervisor will plan that. But here we are using that Azure OpenAI also to decide. And in the part 5 we have shown how we can call the external capabilities, web search, advanced media detection, external risk signals. So hope this part 1 to part 5 is clear, and we'll have one more video which will cover the part 6 to part 8, where we'll call the API, but it will be an event-driven architecture because it may happen there are so many requests coming, right? So API cannot handle. So we'll use some asynchronous mechanism to take the request in a queue, and then will be again served. So that will be shown in the next video.